Taiwan shocked. China sending 19 fighter jets towards Taiwan amid tension. Both tensions between China and Taiwan heated up last week after Beijing sent nearly 20 military aircraft across the key, median line, boundary separating the two nations multiple times. On one occasion, Chinese pilots hit out at Taiwanese forces who tried to get them to leave the area. Taiwan-based newspaper China Times reports Taiwanese officials urged the aircraft to immediately turn to leave. However, the pilots responded by saying there is no middle line of the strait. Malcolm Davis, a former defense advisor, explained China's possible reasoning behind the move to deny the existence of the median line, a boundary which runs down the middle of the Taiwan Strait. He said redrawing the map over the median line in the Taiwan Strait is a very obvious step to not only raise the pressure, but also justify the use of force, according to Bloomberg. Mr. Davis added the probes into Taiwan's side of the line could be an effort to provoke the Taiwanese Air Force to shoot first, which could justify further violence. China is widely reported to consider Taiwan part of its owner territory. Taiwan, however, maintains its independence. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said in a tweet on Saturday it strongly condemns China's recent military drills in the region. It claimed a large number of Chinese Air Force jets had entered into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone on a single day. This included 16 different types of fighter jet, of which 12 were J-16 models, as well as 2 H-6 bombers and a Y-8 ASW anti-submarine patrol aircraft. Ministry wrote, "PLA crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait again today, severely violating our sovereignty and destabilize regional peace. MND strongly condemns and urges PRC to practice self-restraint and don't be a troublemaker in the Indo-Pacific region." The Chinese activity in the region follows a couple of high-profile meetings between senior U.S. diplomats and Taiwanese officials, meetings China has strongly condemned. Late last week, U.S. Undersecretary of State Keith Krach traveled to the island nation to meet its President Tsai Ing-wen in the latest move to strengthen U.S.-Taiwan relations. The U.S. Department of State claimed the purpose of Mr. Krach's visit was to attend a memorial service for the country's former President Lee Teng-hui. However, it is understood the official also held talks with Taiwanese counterparts about trade. The U.S. said, "The United States honors President Lee's legacy by continuing our strong bonds with Taiwan and its vibrant democracy through shared political and economic values." Analysts say China was angered by the move. Last month, U.S. Health Secretary Alex Azar made a similar visit. Spokesman Zhao Lijian said Beijing was firmly opposed to official exchanges between the U.S. and Taiwan. He added, "On issues involving China's core interests, some people in the United States must not have any illusions and wishful thinking. Those who play with fire will get burnt." In the past couple of months, both the U.S. and China have held military exercises in the South China Sea. According to reports, the U.S. exercises in the area were the first in nearly a decade. Meanwhile, China's increased presence in the South China Sea is likely to increase the risk of military clashes following decades of isolated incidents in the disputed waters. Recently, the China-Taiwan clashes have helped enliven the South China Sea claims. China claims it has a historic right of ownership to almost the entire South China Sea, despite a 2016 international arbitration ruling saying Beijing's claim had no legal basis under international law. But the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan and Brunei also have overlapping claims to parts of it. DWF's head of transport, Jonathan Moss, has explained China's presence as increasing frustrations felt by ASEAN states. Mr. Moss thinks what that means is heightened tensions and increased prospects of clashes, potentially military clashes. What it's doing is upping the ante in terms of the dialogue and the frustrations and the anguish that is felt by these ASEAN states. That would be Moss' take on China's activity in the South China Sea. The question is really, has China got the right to do what they're doing? Mr. Moss also noted there is a real risk of further conflict in the waters. There have been pockets of conflict before. Going back about 20 years, there was a naval battle where 3 Chinese vessels were engaged with the Philippines Navy gunboats. There's definitely the risk of isolated incidents, and as we know, a string of isolated incidents can lead to major conflict. It should be on the radar as a danger. It comes as 2 U.S. Air Force B-1B bombers took off from Guam and headed west over the Pacific Ocean to the hotly contested South China Sea. The sleek jets made a low-level pass over the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan and its escorting fleet, which was exercising nearby in the Philippine Sea, according to images released by the U.S. military. The operation was part of the Trump administration's intensifying challenge to China's ruling Communist Party and its sweeping territorial claims over one of the world's most important strategic waterways. While senior Trump officials launched diplomatic and rhetorical broadsides at Beijing, the U.S. Defense Department is turning to the firepower of its heavily armed, long-range bombers as it seeks to counter Beijing's bid to control the seas off the Chinese coast. Since late January, American B-1B and B-52 bombers, usually operating in pairs, have flown about 20 missions over key waterways, including the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and the Sea of Japan, according to accounts of these flights from U.S. Air Force statements and official social media posts. These missions, military analysts say, are designed to send a crystal-clear signal. The United States can threaten China's fleet and Chinese land targets at any time, from distant bases, without having to move America's aircraft carriers and other expensive surface warships within range of Beijing's massive arsenal of missiles. In this response to the growing power of China's military, the Pentagon has combined some of its oldest weapons with some of its newest, Cold War-era bombers and cutting-edge, stealthy missiles.